we're recording because our conversations before the show are so good.
They are usually better than the show. Just saying. But I usually cuss before the show, so
you cuss before.
I kind of tone it down for the show because my producer Shane there is making up for all his past sins as a Division I college football player. He's trying to repent and he's trying to pay his penance to get into heaven. So,
like for every time I fumbled or something or missed a tackle or what?
I just seen where the Bills missed a kicker for unruly underage stuff. So
that's
the old stuff. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. I was watching the, and I know this ain't where we were going to begin, but I'm just jumping in here. I watched the Kurt Warner deal I wasn't ate up with football like a lot of people are today when I was in my 20s. You know what I mean? Because I had other things to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to an office environment where 50-year-old dudes were sitting around worrying about smoke breaks and who was playing football this weekend. And I remember this guy saying, they were talking about who's going to go to the Super Bowl. It was in '99. And he was saying, well, the first time I ever heard Kurt Warner's name, I can tell you where I was at, right?
Yeah.
I was behind the office building in Jeff City, Missouri at a smoke break. So there was only one guy on our team that smoked. But when he would go out for a smoke break, everybody that was in the office there in our group would all go out with him because they thought smoke breaks were for slackers. Dudes would go out to smoke. And they'd just be telling stories or holding court or just jacking around, right?
Mm-hmm.
So somebody said, well, hell, if Terry's going to go out and smoke, we'll all go out and smoke. So you had one dude smoking with 4 or 5, sometimes 6 other guys not smoking standing around him.
Right? That's crazy. That's crazy.
I could tell you so many crazy things that I have been involved in my life that I don't even know if that's even close because it had no cars, guns, or women. But it was a smoke break where only one person was smoking, and I vividly remember him saying Kurt Warner was going to be the best quarterback in the world, and I'd never heard of him. Okay, so I watched the Kurt Warner show last night, and it was pretty good. There was a few things that, is he really that good a dude? Or was he that good a dude in the movie because he was executive producer? I don't know.
Well, I always heard he was a good, he came out as a good dude. Was he like stocking shelves as he was?
He was working at Hy-Vee. They always said grocery store. I didn't know until last night he was actually working at a Hy-Vee in Iowa.
Yeah, he married an older lady and adopted her kids and isn't one of the kids.
How older she was our age. She's a couple years older than him. You know what's funny is there was a scene where his coach in college, you know why he wouldn't get any playing time? He only played 5 games his entire college career.
I didn't know that.
You know why? The movie starts out because the freaking coach, he wouldn't stay in the pocket. He would run out and throw. You know how they do nowadays. I told my son, who's watching me, I said, I'm glad Patrick Mahomes didn't play for that guy. Because he was of the generation. You know what I'm saying? You know how it used to be. They wanted you to, by God, stand in that pocket and take a hit if you had to, as opposed to running out. There's a scene where Kurt Warner breaks out of the pocket. He throws a touchdown, and the coach gets him and says, you need to stay in that freaking pocket, or whatever they said. And Warner says, you're welcome for the touchdown. And he said, it ain't about the touchdown. It's about you staying in the pocket.
One of those guys, huh?
Well, and I guess they were probably pretty common. So needless to say, where I'm going with this whole thing is, there was some scenes with Ray Lewis, a dude that played Ray Lewis.
Okay.
And when I seen the guy playing Ray Lewis, I said, they could have got somebody better because Ray Lewis is bigger than that dude, right? So
yeah, probably, yeah.
Well, how big do you think Ray Lewis is?
I think Ray Lewis is about 6'1" and probably about 245 when he was playing. That's what I guess.
He's 6'1", 241 or something. I think 241 or 242.
I can spot him a mile away.
And I seen that, and I was like, dude, I could have played. I'm bigger than that.
Well, there's a big difference between being bigger than that and being an animal. You know,
Okay.
just the
Well,
beast
and
of
that
football
segued
field.
into me reading about Ray Lewis murdering 2 guys in his white suit and it never being found. So,
did he murder the 2 guys, or was it 2 guys in his entourage, and they all
well,
escaped
I'm going
in
to
his
tell you
limo?
who got kinked up for it was the 2 guys in his entourage, but the clothes Ray Lewis was wearing were never found, and he had some kind of white Armani suit or something, you know, that it made a big production of him rolling in there with his suit, and his clothes were never found. The dead dude's blood was in Ray Lewis's car, meaning they figured it was transferred in on what Ray Lewis was wearing. It doesn't matter. Okay. Ray Lewis got a plea deal and testified against the other 2 guys, and they took the hit.
Now, did they take the hit because he said, "I'll take care of you financially once you get out"?
All I can tell you is they were convicted of a lot worse than he was, which segued into me reading about Aaron Hernandez.
Oh gosh.
So what it said was the Ravens stuck with Ray Lewis because they really weren't. I guess the old National Football League. How do I say this delicately? Okay.
Don't say it delicately. We had a fan reach out from last week and said, "Man, why does the Howler always say I'm not going to say something and make my fans mad?" And he wanted us to make. He wants you to just say what's on your mind. I'm like,
okay.
Oh,
so anyway, I guess the NFL didn't have all the fucking criminals back in the old days as they do nowadays, or in the 2000s, the 90s and the 2000s, right?
No, I don't think that. I think they had just.
And let me rephrase
criminals.
that maybe that's because they didn't have the social media and the internet
There you go.
Camera phones and all this other crap, right?
There you go.
So basically that story segued into they did a whole hot wash or evaluation on how the team and the NFL responded to Ray Lewis. So when it happened with Aaron Hernandez, he was dumped within 15 minutes, literally within 15 minutes of it coming down.
Well, if you get into the Aaron Hernandez story, there was
some crazy stuff. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, there's a lot leading up to. I mean, I think he might have been on his way out sooner or later anyway, because he was just nuts. I mean, he just was. He was
I don't even know where I was going with this. I read that story about the Buffalo Bills kicker getting jammed up yesterday. Now he was released today.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the Kurt Warner show. I was reading about the Buffalo Bills kicker as I was watching the Kurt Warner show, and it was like those 2 were from 2 different planets.
True, yeah.
And maybe it's because Kurt Warner didn't start his movie, you know, about his life until he was his last 5 games of his senior year in college, right?
Yeah, I think that's they're 2 different people for sure, from two different.
So tell me about the movie you watched.
So and I kind of asked you about this. So there's a really cool series of documentaries on Netflix called Untold. The first one I watched, and you were a little puzzled, was about the rise and fall of the brand And One.
Because I don't remember it.
And One was started by 3 guys that were in the Wharton Business School who didn't really want to go.
Which is where President Trump went. Go ahead.
Is it? Okay. Well, peace out.
I'm sorry, jack up your train of thought.
Can I edit that out?
I just wanted to say his name in this from now on. I'm always going to say his name in a podcast. So
I should say Nixon. So I should mention Richard Nixon.
I don't care. I just it's the number one. Didn't you see it was the number one topic of the news the last 4 years? It's the number one stated name. I mean, we get more mileage out of saying President Trump's name than anybody anybody else.
Anyway, so these three guys decided they didn't want to work on Wall Street or in banking and stuff, but they all love basketball. So they started, and this is a similar conversation you and I have had numerous times. They came up with 20. They played pickup basketball out on the playgrounds a lot. So they came up with 20 different trash talking sayings, okay, that they could put on T-shirts. So they started.
I love it.
Yeah, so they started putting it like, hey, I don't know, like call me
In
the
your
bus
face, something.
No, like call me the bus driver because I'm going to take you to school, stuff like that. So they started making these T-shirts. They started selling them out of the trunk of their car. Pretty soon, some of the and I don't know, it wasn't Dick's, but it was like Foot Locker and them started carrying them. And one thing led to another. They became an actual viable player in the game of sports merchandise. And their first ill step was, though, that they decided they wanted to get into making shoes because that was
now,
it.
Did you say ill step?
Ill step. Their first ill step they took was it, and they signed Stephon Marbury out of college.
Never heard of him. Who was he?
Stephon Marbury.
Yeah.
Come on, you got it. Come on. He went to Georgia Tech. Was huge. Like number 4 pick in the NBA. And whatever it was. Long story short.
What happened to him?
Oh yeah, he was really good in the pros, and then he's played in China. He's like huge in China right now. But you're talking like he got drafted back in the early 90s. So, and I think he's still playing in China. But anyway, his first game wearing their shoes, he breaks his ankle. So they're like, oh crap, we're screwed. And it kind of told how they pivoted off of that on what they could do, and could, and kind of do something that Nike couldn't, because Nike was their competition. So they started that street ball, the and one street ball, which became huge. So they took basically the street ball and kind of organized it and took it on tour. It was at one time the highest ranking television show on ESPN. They did a live, or they did a kind of like a real world type of thing around the street ball. They were trying to, find the next person. So anyway, it just kind of chronicled the rise and fall of and one. It was kind of interesting. I'm like, man, this is good documentary.
So what fell up? I mean, what?
I don't want to give it. I don't want to give it. It's just they got into the point where they were so huge. They got back in the shoes. They were number 2 behind Nike again, and Nike just basically wanted to get rid of them. So Nike did their own street ball commercial, and it totally overnight sank their shoe sales. And so these guys, despite the fact of the popularity of, because they had there were guys that they would tour the country and well-known street ballers, and they would play people in towns and stuff, and basically just pulled the rug out from underneath of them all. And these guys that owned the company sold it while it was still worth something. They saw the writing on the wall. The shoe sales were going to sink. So it's very interesting, because you and I talk on a semi-weekly basis about what kind of merch can we come up with. And it was very inspirational, though, to see how these guys, and obviously they were smart guys, took this idea and to do something around something they loved, and were successful for a while, But that led me to the next one, which a lot of people have been talking about, was the Manti Te'o thing. And you kind of said, like, Christy, she didn't even know who Manti Te'o was. And wait,
well, I think that's because they didn't. He nobody touched him after that, right?
Well, he played in the pros. He got drafted and played in the pros for 7-8 years.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, he did. He just wasn't. He kept getting injured. He had bad feet or something. But it was stunning. And see, here's what blew me away: is Christy sat there watching this with me, totally naive to the fact that this happens all the time. I can't even count on one hand between my Instagram account and the From the Shadows podcast Instagram account of all the people catfishing. You know,
What do you mean they're sending you DMs or something or what?
well, they sent, you know, like they're hey, how's it going? And it's people, you know, it's fake profiles pretending to be somebody else, and ultimately,
Yes, yeah,
they're asking for money and stuff. And Nita, our social media, she keeps good tabs on them, and sometimes I'll get a hold of them and we'll just mess with them. You know, we'll just mess with the people. And it just I mean, for fun, just to string them along, thinking you're going to send them money or something like that. But it was, I just couldn't believe that she didn't. She's like, well, how's this person not in jail? Like, they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything illegal, you know. So, but it was unbelievable. I strongly suggest everybody watch that Manti Te'o one. That even vaguely.
This is what I couldn't understand.
His house for 3 years. He had a girlfriend and never saw her.
Like, I mean, because where you go to college at?
He went to Notre Dame, and this girl, and I'm using air quotes, was supposedly in California, and he was from Hawaii. So there was really no reason or way for him to really get to California unless they played there. And the one time they did play there.
Now back up there for a second, okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I did not have the illustrious college football career that you had.
Okay.
I did not. Okay. For various reasons, I just did not.
Okay.
I had a friend of mine that did.
Yeah.
Okay. And then maybe this is because it was before the virtual world or whatever. But there was broads beating on the door of his dorm all the time. Real ones. He didn't have to drive to California or whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, listen, Manti Te'o was a very interesting person. He was very religious. He was very religious. He was a Mormon, and he was.
That means it means he's just good at sneaking around.
Look, I can only go.
I mean, don't he got to go out for 2 years and witness and everything?
Is that, I don't know. Is that only?
Don't they? I mean, you can't tell me. I mean, there was some Mormon girls used to come and witness in my neighborhood in Minneapolis all the time, and it got to where I just knew when they were coming around because I was one of the few people that didn't run them off, and you know, and I took their pamphlets. They talked to my, you know, people. I don't know, man. I'm going to stop now before I upset.
Look. I would just say, just watch it. I would just.
I'm going to watch it. Yeah.
It's a 2-part. It's kind of it's very eye opening, but then that followed up with another one about a minor league hockey team called the Danbury Trashers, which I had never heard of, knew nothing about. But they were in Danbury, Connecticut. And the guy that bought them was supposedly the guy that Tony Soprano was based off of.
Okay.
And he bought it and gave it, or put his 17-year-old son in charge of it because he had just suffered an injury in high school and couldn't play hockey anymore. And it was off the chain, the best, most exciting documentary about sports that I've seen in a long time. It was fantastic. It was fantastic. These guys, they called themselves the bad boys of hockey. Their whole thing was, we're just going to beat the crap out of you. And it was and this was in the early 2000s, and they only lasted for 2 seasons, and they were really successful. It all came crashing down because the dad, for the second time, got hauled in by the FBI because he owned a huge refuse business in Connecticut. And so you can understand he was, backed by the mob. So it was great. It was great. There was so much good stuff in it. And by the end of the documentary, you're really like, okay, so he's picking up garbage and he's paying players under the. I mean, come on. They did a lot of good for the
Well, I
city.
know you saw Pony Excess, right? With the
Oh,
30 by 30.
about Eric Dickerson and those guys at
Yeah,
SMU.
the SMU. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. This was similar to profession. Bags of cash. It was just fantastic because it reminded me
From
of.
college.
No, I did
Oh,
not get bags of cash. But it reminded me of kind of like sports in the 70s, like some of those minor league teams, when they were independent teams and they had maverick kind of owners and stuff and did crazy stuff. It was really good. Which I say Danbury, Connecticut. I, we got to talk about something else going on in Connecticut.
hit it. Mm-hmm.
I got a message last night from a former guest. So the people that listen to the paranormal part of the podcast might remember, like he's a sort of a celebrity chef on the East Coast, Mark Vachito. I'm butchering his last name, but he was a guest. Had a great story about when him and his wife, then wife, lived out in Roswell and Men in Black and some haunted stuff. I mean, he had some great stories. But he is opening a restaurant called Seven Napkins. The little tagline, it's howling good. So it's got a like a werewolf thing, and it's in East Lyme, Connecticut. I think it's opening in about 2 weeks. So he sent me a message. He sent me the menu, and do you want to tell him what's on the menu? One of the signature sandwiches.
No, I want you to tell them.
One of the signature sandwiches is called the Ozark Howler. And it's specifically in honor of you. How does that make you feel? Now, I'm gonna tell what the Ozark Howler is. It sounds pretty good. It's pulled pork, smoked Gouda mac and cheese, and jalapeno. And it is recommended because it sounds kind of juicy to be eaten in a wrap. And I'm kind of impressed that you
Well,
got a sandwich made
it
named
sounds
after you.
good too. I was wondering how he knew what I ate without calling me. I mean, it just how did he know? Maybe
He's a
I'm giving up too
professional.
much. Hmm?
So he's a professional, and Mark's a great guy. He's we tried some hot sauce. He made some Ozark Howler hot sauce that we had. I sent some to you, right? You got some.
No, you didn't send me any. Nope. You guys took it all in Ohio.
Wait a second. I thought...
It never makes it past the Ohio River. Any package. I know you guys got. You guys got all kinds of stuff, and I don't get nothing out here.
Well, anyways, Mark said he was done with fine dining and now he's doing fun dining. So, just the name of the sandwiches, he's got the Beast of Bray Road, which is essentially the dog man. He's got the Albuquerque turkey, the Philadelphia experiment, which is paranormal.
Yeah, I
people
love it.
remember
Yeah.
that. That's when they tried to.
I totally remember. They say
Yeah.
it really happened, didn't it?
For seconds, like the battleship
Disappeared.
Yeah, a sloppy chupacabra. Now, I'm not sure about that. He's got a Jersey Devil.
I knew a girl like it.
The sloppy chupacabra.
Yeah, I think I knew.
Or a Jersey Devil.
Both of them. Yeah, I knew both of them.
How about this? He's got
Thank
a Goonie. He's got a Goonie Goo Goo.
Well,
A callback to the Eddie Murphy.
Sure.
Your wife's a Bigfoot, Gus. She's a Goonie Goo Goo. Now, they have a great breakfast menu, which supposedly is going to have something called Shane's corned beef and hash. After he's gonna do it in my honor, apparently, because I'm a big corned beef and hash person. So
Right.
we're gonna send him some merch. We're gonna send him some signed picture so they can put it up on the wall.
I was just out there. Had I wouldn't mind seeing him. Had I thought about it, had I known.
I think we got to make a trip. So
yeah, I'm ready for any kind of reason. I went to Chicago over the weekend, so I'm ready to go.
I think what we're going to do is we're going to send some coffee mugs out there, some from the Shadows coffee mugs, and we'll have one each for the first fan of the podcast first one that eats an Ozark Howler sandwich, gets his picture taken. We'll have Mark give him a coffee mug, and then the first person that eats a Shane's corned beef and hash, we'll have them give him a coffee mug to them. How about that? That sounds
I think
good.
it's a great idea. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, what they're going to be known for, and I had no idea what this is, and I'm sorry if this is making everybody listening hungry, but you're going to want to go and Google a steamed cheeseburger. I had no idea what that was, but I Googled it. He told me to look it up. There is this small bar out there, I think it's in Connecticut also, that's famous for these steamed cheeseburgers. So they have these steam cabinets, and it's a little square. They put the beef in and they steam it instead of frying it or anything. And then they put a block of cheese in this little square, and it melts the cheese. They steam the cheese. I tell you what, it is amazing. It looks amazing. I cannot wait to actually go and try Mark's version of that. So I'm totally hungry now. And you know what I did? I smoked a rump roast.
I seen that. How did it turn out today?
It turned out fantastic. But here's the problem. Okay, is whenever I make something like that, Christy really wants stuff, and I'm going to say it, overdone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I and me and her dad, we like it how it's supposed to be. Her and her mom like stuff
just
overdone.
Cooked enough.
Just cooked to where it's reached the right temperature, and I cooked that for I don't know how long, 4 or 5 hours. Okay, it hadn't quite reached the temperature before we had to leave, so we put it in. Wrapped it in tin foil, pulled it out, it looked fantastic. Put it in the oven. It cooked for another 2 hours in the juice in the oven. Okay, it's like 225. Pull it out. It was unbelievable. I sliced it up. She still took half of it, put it back in the juice, put it back in the oven at 325. I'm like, what are you doing? She goes, well, I just want it to fall apart. And I'm like, okay. I guess
when you get married next year?
Next year, that's the plan. June.
Well,
2nd.
that gives you plenty of time to either train her up or trade her in. One or the other. If you can't get the bugs worked out.
I'm excited. Listen, if that's the worst thing that we have, that we go back and forth about, then I'm okay with it. Because I don't smoke meat that much. But this is why, because when I get it to where I want to eat it, then it's still got to be cooked another couple hours. But it's good that she doesn't listen, because she'd be like, "Oh, really?" She'd have something to say.
Well, hey, I welcome it.
No, we're not going. Like I told the guy, Ryan, who wanted you to just say whatever you felt like rather than.
I can't. You know what? Tell him we might. I don't know.
I said.
We'll think about that on the. Go ahead.
Well, I said we don't want to go into that dark abyss.
Yeah. Did you tell him I'm like a child that's been around the world I'm a child with 50 years experience, and
I think you just did. I think you just did.
And this thing could go off the rails any second. I mean, I'm walking a tightrope every time I call. I couldn't even get Skype to load up. It's typical, right? I go to turn on. You text me and say, "You ready?" I was about to get in the swimming pool, and I thought, well, maybe instead of getting in the pool, I'll just do the podcast.
Right. Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
And I come down here and turn on Old Faithful here, and it tells me I got to update, and then I got to restart, and it updates, it restarts, it opens 3 windows, it won't work, and it's like, dude, you're texting me, you're calling me, it's ringing on my iPhone, and I'm like, how come the iPhone never updates?
Maybe it does. It does.
I mean, it
you
does
just
in the
don't
middle
know.
of the night. I got to set up for automatic, I guess. But I'm like, dude. So I might have to send the old black mare off to the pasture because the old Dell is. I'm putting the Dell off. This is my last podcast on the Dell.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Oh boy.
I'm putting her down.
I never got a follow up. How did the concrete go?
It's hard.
So it got done. It's all right.
There's a couple places a little rougher than I wanted because the way the sun comes down afternoon is on the peak of my house shaded some, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the out at the edge that was in the sun was drying faster than up by the house. So when I come to broom, the broom looks real good at the last 4 feet, but the first 6 feet's a little rough. But I had to do something because it was getting too hard in the sun. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you don't even know what I'm talking about, but concrete guys will know.
I know what you're talking about.
So, and my brother broomed it, and I watched him, and I watched how rough it was. And I thought, you know, I ought to mag this off and re-broom it. I ought to just broom the sunny part now, and then just wait and do the other part. You know, I had about 3 things in my head I could do, and I didn't because it was 85 and I was hotter than hell, and I thought, you know, I'm just driving on it, right? Maybe a little rougher will keep me from sliding through the garage doors if it's snowy or something.
Well, look, I'm glad you're satisfied. You were a little frustrated last week, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm frustrated. You know, I tell you, I had a bad day. I was in a foul mood today, and it was, I don't know.
Is there a reason you were foul?
The only thing I can think of, and I don't know, I had my garage door spring break back in around my birthday, the last few days of January. Okay. And as anybody that's ever messed with a manual garage door, they don't open when the spring breaks, right? Because the weight of the door is too much.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Menards, and because of the COVID manufacturing predicament that this country has put itself in, they didn't have the exact same one. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, I'll just get a heavier one. Better, you know what I mean? I look at it like an engine in a truck. Right? I'll just get a bigger one. Well, then that sumbitch swung my garage door up so fast that the cables flipped off the track. So I'd take it apart, box it back up, try to go get it returned to Menards. Then I get a lighter one. It won't lift it about a halfway. So anyway, I was on my ladder when my brother called to tell me that he had found my other brother dead. So I left all my tools in this step ladder. You know, I got a fancy ladder with the top. It's, you know, I can
like a toolbox,
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Not that I'd ever be caught on a ladder or using tools, but
it has remained unfixed. So a week ago, when I was going to pour that concrete, one of us needed to be, because I poured right up to my garage doors, somebody needed to be in the garage door. So I opened the garage door with my floor jack, and I said to myself, maybe I should close a few loops. And so I went to, I got on YouTube, and I watched this guy say, hey, get your old garage door, measure your spring, take some measurements, do this. This is the wire diameter you need. This is the length you need. This is how to do, you know what I mean? And he walked me through the whole process. And I watched the video in the Menards parking lot with my old spring in the back of my truck. I jumped out. I took the measurements. I did the calculations. I come up with the numbers of what I thought I needed. I walked in there, and out of the 85 garage door springs Menards had, they only had one. Okay. And it was exactly what I needed by what the YouTube guy, his math says I need. right?
So you should feel good about
So
that,
it was
right?
meant to be. So I got it. So then I went up to Chicago, watched my son graduate from Navy basic training,
All
and
right.
I came home
Congratulations. All right.
yesterday, and this morning I was trying to figure out what circles I was going to close. I was either going to finish rebuilding my kids' four-wheeler for the second time this year, or I was going to fix my garage door. I did something before I fixed the garage door, but it escapes me now. So I think it was the fact that I was on that ladder and subconsciously it was linked up because all the nuts and bolts, all this stuff was still sitting there from the day when my brother passed away. Does that make sense?
So it took you back to that day.
Yes, I think that's the only thing I can think of why I would be in a foul mood, because I really have no reason to be in a foul mood, if you want me to be honest with you. Rich, I'm successful.
Good looking.
Good.
Young.
Well,
Still pretty young.
Certainly.
Well,
counts I am.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, the last episode we talked about, we complained about getting old. And so I went out Monday morning on the mail route.
Yep.
And I mean, I wasn't even a half hour into it, and I was on this kind of like main street that I do. And, the post office is always pushing you. They want you to be mail ready. Box ready is what they call it.
That's what they call it? Box ready?
Box ready. So when you get to that next box, you have the mail already ready for that house, and you can put it right in, turn around, and get to the next. So being box ready means as you're walking, you have to be looking at the mail. Okay. And so I turned around. I mean, I've gone up and down these people's steps, I don't know, 3,000 times in my career. I don't know, lots. Okay. And I missed the next to last step going down these steps. And so I fell, however far that is, way too far, landing shoulder and knee first on the sidewalk. I didn't even have time to catch myself, because in my bag, there's a lot of mail on Monday, but were these godforsaken Uline catalogs. You know what the Uline catalog is?
Yeah, they still give them out?
Oh my God. They're so heavy. I had 3 of them. They're so heavy. It's like a hand reached out of the step as I'm falling and just yanked on my bag because of those catalogs. I stood no chance. So I land shoulder first on my bad shoulder and knee first. It took down to the white on my knee. Like however many layers of skin are on my knee.
So did you finish your route, or?
Oh yeah. I mean, I went to the.
Of course you did. Mm-hmm. They punked you out. That's why.
Yeah. And
so what the postmaster? You did a CA1?
No, they don't. No, I didn't. Later on the day, I was bleeding down my leg, and I got a Band-Aid at the plumbing and heating place on my route that got the catalogs. It was the least they could do. They gave me a Band-Aid because it was their catalogs that, if I don't have the catalogs, I might catch myself or a little bit, but I had no chance. And I just gotten, I just got my shoulders feeling good and my legs feeling good from our drive to South Carolina. So I was feeling good. It's the best I'd felt in a while. And it just boom like that. And I just laying there as I'm laying there on that sidewalk going, and I'm just mad, not because I fell, but I'm like, I do not want to get hurt doing this job. That would just, it'd be so frustrating if I, hurt myself permanently in any way, shape, or form, because of Uline catalogs on a Monday. There you go. Now, what was funny is only one person was driving by and saw that happen.
Did they stop and ask if you're okay?
No, heavens no. But I used to deliver mail on a much busier street that went into town, and it had really steep steps. And I wiped out numerous times on ice, and then you'd always run into somebody later on. Hey, I saw you fall. It's like, but you didn't stop and ask me if I was okay. So there you go. So all week I've tried to get my back and shoulders into place, and my knees still raw like a I don't know.
Like a what?
I don't even know. I don't even know what I can compare it to. But so there you go.
It could always be worse, right? You know, I think that's what's wrong with America today, right?
They don't understand it could always be worse.
Yes, because I was at my grandma's birthday a couple weeks ago, and I was sitting across from Bobby Hartman that we had talked about, and he was telling his mom and one of his uncles, right? They were sitting there, talking about everything, and he was talking, and here's a guy that's in his 70s, has done a lot of stuff, but he's got some cancer late in life, and he starts talking about going to the VA and meeting a guy in a wheelchair, that's got a young guy, because they think it's from them burn pits or whatever, that's got 35-year-old guy with twice the cancer he has.
Oh yeah, isn't that the thing they wanted to try to get coverage for or something and got voted down? Or
yeah, I don't. There's so many things. Let's not go there, because
I'll
run this son of a bitch right off the track if we start talking about politicians and politics in the world. Okay, because I
was just talking about burn.
This thing will go.
I was just talking about burn.
Yeah, but you said they voted, and the term "they," the words "they" and "voted" together, to me gives me the shakes, right? Because these people, this country is governed by a bunch of people that can't freaking whine to watch.
Remember,
and I've got nothing against incompetence and drunks. I'm related to a lot of them. I got a lot of them as friends, but they shouldn't be running the country, right?
Remember, it could always be worse.
Well, it's getting there. This thing's going, and I just wish, if they're going to crash this thing, hurry up and do it while I'm alive, because I ain't got better skill sets than my kids and my neighbors. But so Bobby's talking about somebody with worse cancer, and then this good-looking girl he's with over there in her early 30s, who lost her arm from the elbow down in a Humvee that got bombed, IED'd, And his point was, here was a guy that's, let's just be honest, in the sunset of his life.
Yeah, he's lived a hard life.
He's lived a hard, crazy life, and he still sees sunshine. Right? He's got his 85-year-old mother, 90-year-old mother, 95-year-old mother. Now I think about 92, 93. If he's 72, she was 20 when she had. So he's riding with his 92-year-old mother to a birthday party, right? Where an Elvis impersonator is going to be on stage. So that itself should soften even the hardest man, right?
Okay. You would think, yeah.
But he's still seeing sunshine, baby, because he says somebody's always got it worse, don't they? No matter how bad you think it is, somebody's always got it worse. So, and I thought about that a bunch this week, because that's what's missing in the world today. Because everybody thinks you're getting screwed, I'm getting screwed, somebody's screwing me, somebody's not paying my student loans, or somebody's not doing this, or somebody's not doing. Dude, it could always be so much worse.
Yeah, you were right on. You're right on. I tell one of the clerks at the post office, he complains about something. I forget what it is, and I would say, you know what, man? I said, if that's the worst thing that happens to you today, you're doing all right. Somebody puts a tub where it's not supposed to be, and that just irritates him. And I'm like, if that's the worst thing that happens to you, you're doing all right.
You the one putting the tub up there?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm telling you. That's why
I like it.
That's why I tell him.
I like it.
Yeah, that's the worst. But you're right. It could always be worse, and that's a hard thing to tell. It's a hard thing to tell, especially kids.
Well, especially
it could always be worse.
Yeah, and especially kids that had a lot of
who
haven't had a lot of suffering. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But look, that's my kid. That's my two of my daughters.
I mean, my son was day and night, and I'm not saying that Navy boot camp was easy, but it's probably not known to be as hard. The Navy boot camp in the 2022 is not known for being, freaking Guantanamo Bay in 2003, but he was growing up. I mean, he's not that he was bad to start off with, but that kid is changed man. You know what I mean?
You got the
10-week summer camp made him a changed man.
Got the results you desired, right?
I don't know if he desired them or not. He was telling his mother how productive he was.
The results you desired.
He said he had never 10 weeks without his phone. He had never been so productive in his life. He was going to try to keep these skill sets the rest of his life, he said.
Ooh, how long do you think that'll last?
I'd say he's in another school. He graduated at noon on Friday, and he flew to Virginia Beach at 7:30 for the next school on Saturday morning. So for 13 weeks, I think it'll work. And then after that, who knows? He just who.
Well, I hope he does well.
So.
I hope he does well. I think there's a lot of people that would benefit from
well,
that.
I tell you what, yeah, I think so. And that's what I was going to say. I don't even know where. I mean, this is a whole another episode. We talk about the kids that I saw, the families that I saw at his graduation. I mean, some of these kids. I mean, this is the best thing that's ever happened to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure. Probably some of them. It's the first time.
Well, hey, I'll tell you. I'm going to tell you a story here. You want to hear a story?
Let's go.
Okay. I stayed at the Navy Lodge, which is on a post there, and I don't really call it a real post because they don't keep you out like they do at like Fort Leonard Wood. But whatever. I'm staying at the Navy Lodge, and I'm getting up to go over here to get in line to go to graduation. So they open the gates at 6:30. Everybody's got to be seated by 8. They open the outside gates to the parking lots at 6:30. They open the doors to the facility at 7:30. Everybody's got to be seated in their seat at 8:45 because the thing starts at 9, I think, or however it was, right? So, I mean, this thing's got, down to the minute, right? They got a little deal. It's on your ticket. You had to, in order to get there, you had to register early. They ran a criminal history check. You had to have your COVID vaccination. You had to have all that stuff. So, I'm jumping. I'm cruising in one of these guys was railing on me for F-150. I'm gonna call it my wife's F-150 because I bought it for her. But anyway, I'm cruising in my F-150 XLT Lariat, making a turn toward the venue, and I'm within 2 miles of the venue, right? So we're all congested. So when I say when I'm pulling out of the hotel heading this thing, I'm within a couple of miles, right? Well, yeah. They sell all this paraphernalia you can sign up for. Like you could get an anchor with your kid's name and class on it. There's all this trinkets, right? Challenge coins, T-shirts, and all this stuff, right? And I look across the thing there, and there's an old Mexican woman walking up, and it's 2 lanes in both directions with a turn lane in the middle. So it's 5 lanes of street, right? Chain link fence and government buildings on both sides. And here's this woman carrying this anchor, this blue anchor, like Jesus carrying the cross, headed to Mount Moriah or wherever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. She is puffing up this hill, and a little bit further ahead of her is a younger Mexican gal and a little kid. And they're looking over their shoulder to see if grandma's catching up to them, and they're just huffing and puffing. And the traffic is starting to back up. It's all these people in the right-hand turn lane. There's 2 miles worth of stops because of the stop signal and all this other stuff. And my wife says, you think they're going the same place we are? And I said, I don't know. She said, we've got Navy an anchor there. Think we should pick them up? And I said, oh, I guess. So I put my window down and I said, Grandma. And she stopped and she turned and she started saying some shit in Spanish. She's telling me she can't speak English. And I said, you want to ride? And she understood that. So she hollered at the other 2 and I told them to just meet me at the corner. I jumped in the turn lane, and anyway, they didn't meet me at the corner. They ran across the street. She hobbled, and they got in the back of this pickup of mine. So now I got these three people, and I'm trying to talk to them about where you going, where you headed, where they're going to graduate. They're showing me this anchor with this Hispanic kid's name on it or whatever, and here, you just ride with us. So I had to fight my way back over to the right turn lane and get in there, and you're jacking around, and they finally opened the gate. The dude that worked at the hotel said, "Hey, they don't open the gates till 6:30. I wouldn't leave this hotel till 6:30 because," he said, "people will start lining up at 5:30 and the gates don't open." He said, "Once they open up, they'll let them in pretty quick. So why would you sit there an extra hour?" And it made perfect sense to me. But my old lady couldn't process that. If people are waiting at 5:30, we ought to be waiting at 5:30. We wasn't. We was waiting about 6:10 or whatever. But all that's to say is this. So I'm going and driving this government facility, very reminiscent of the government facilities I worked in, right? Giant warning signs that say active barrier and barricade in use. That's the things that come out of the ground, stops your car. The fences can close and stop your car. You know what I'm talking about? They got all kinds of stuff. These dudes are out there. I don't even know. Some of them were contractors or Navy police, shore patrol, MPs, whatever. Some of them were in uniform. Some of them were in like BDU pants and bulletproof vests. All of them had bulletproof vests and pistols and M4 rifles and all this crap. And I get up there and this kid goes, "I need to see your ID and your tickets." So I hand him my ID and ticket and my old lady's ID and ticket. I open the back door for them, and they throw out these Mexican passports. They're not even U.S. citizens. And she was trying to explain that to me driving up, that the little kid, Diego, that's what he said his name was. And I was thinking, dude, you got named after a cartoon? Like Dora, wasn't her right-hand man Diego?
Something like that. Something like that, yeah.
So anyway, they hit the fucking foreign button, and they start yelling foreign passport, and then he goes, "You gotta stop right here. You gotta go over there." And then they got the big truck X-ray machine. They got dogs. They got a big mirrors underneath. So I got to go over there and I didn't get rough handled too bad, but they took them old ladies and Mexicans out of the grandma and the daughter out of the back seat of my truck. And they started to take Diego, and the MP goes, "How old are you?" And he gets out 11, and he says, "Well, you stay here." And they took grandma and mom away with their Mexican passports. And I'm sitting here with this Hispanic kid in the back. I waited in line early for nothing because everybody behind me is getting in front of me because I'm over here in the fucking foreign line. I look back at Diego and I said, "If your parents don't come back, you're going to be on the roof next week, buddy. I hate to do it to you, but that's the way it is where I'm from." And a little bit later, they brought grandma and mom back, and they still can't speak any English, and put them in the bed of my truck, backseat of my truck, and drove through the gate. I had to recircle, and then they said blue truck's good, and drive in there, and so then we are in this big thing. The Navy band plays, and all this stuff goes, pomp and circumstance. All this stuff's happening. Remember that anchor that they were carrying? When we parked, they didn't know if they could carry it inside. So they wanted to put it in the parking garage in front of my truck between the bumper and the wall. And it's not a cute little thing. And I said, "Well, just put it in the bed of the truck. And when you get done, you can take it out. If we get done early, I'll take it out and set it here." So needless to say, after the thing, I'm at my truck about the same time. I take it out, I put it up against the wall. I'm backing out of the parking lot, and here Diego and mom comes. So I tell them, "Hey, the thing's right there. Where you guys going? Blah, blah, blah. Where's grandma? She's down there in the back. What are y'all doing now?" "Well, we need a ride." So all these kids, when they're graduating, they get out, but then they go through these big doors, and then they meet the families over this thing about 400 yards away. If you cut through the parade ground, but if you go around the outside, it's a mile, you know what I mean, on the street. So I got Diego and Mom in the back of the truck again, and I said, I'll just give you a ride over there. Well, now we got to find Grandma. Where's she at? She's over there on the bench. What bench? And this is a condensed version, right, of charades, right? This is like Rand McNally charades in Spanish. And so finally, I drive out of the parking garage and I drive over to a curb, and then she kept saying, well, she says, well, it's by the American flag, and then she points at this anchor she's got, and it's got the Navy symbol in the middle. It's by the Navy, I said, the Navy flag? Yeah, she's between the American flag and the Navy flag. Well, when you look out across the parade ground, how many of them you think I saw?
100.
At least.
So did you find Grandma?
Yes, I left him in the truck. I left the truck running. I said, well, I guess we'll go find him. My old lady went one direction, and she's calling me, texting me, saying, I can't find Grandma. I'm over here. And I said, why do you think I stayed here? Weren't you going to get out and help me? I said, I guess. I got a truck running the air conditioning on because it's hot. And I said, if you go anywhere, lock it up. And I left these two one of them non-U.S. citizen in my rig. Found Grandma. Had to get her in the truck and drive around parade ground. Mm-hmm.
So you got out looking for Grandma, left your truck running with Diego and
his mother.
His mother, and they could have just got in, took your truck, picked the son up from graduation, and all.
They could have. I don't know. They were in the back seat. I'm not for sure because I was trying. When did you get here? Well, we flew in from San Diego. They're from Tijuana. They flew in from San Diego at 4 a.m. and made it all the way to the graduation, and then they were, doing whatever they were doing, and anyway, yeah.
Well, it could always be worse, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I could be like them, right? I could be stumbling around Mexico trying to speak English and find my kid. Mm-hmm.
With an anchor.
With an anchor, that's right. With an anchor.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.
God only knows what time.